What if a husband's secret love affair with his wife's niece not only destroyed their relationship but ended in a horrifying murder that shattered the very fabric of their family? This chilling true crime story from Los Angeles, California will make you reconsider the boundaries of trust and loyalty. David Johnson is a 42-year-old project manager at a construction firm in Los Angeles, California. Growing up in a small town in Michigan, he moved to Los Angeles to pursue better job opportunities. Known for his dedication and hard work, David has built a reputation as a reliable and trustworthy professional. To his family and friends, he embodies the role of a devoted husband and father, often seen actively participating in community events and family gatherings. This image of a loving family man makes the shocking revelation of his secret affair with his wife's niece all the more devastating. The wife's name is Emily Johnson, and she is 40 years old. Emily is a dedicated homemaker who has spent years nurturing her family and creating a warm home environment. Actively involved in her children's lives, she volunteers at their school and organizes family events. Emily shares a deep bond with her husband, David, built on years of trust and shared experiences. However, as a busy mother, she often prioritizes her family's needs over her own, leaving her somewhat unaware of the growing distance between her and David. Emily's connection to her niece, who has lived with the Johnsons since her mother passed away, adds another layer to the story. Emily has always viewed her niece as a daughter rather than just a relative. This close-knit relationship makes the betrayal even more heart-wrenching when Emily discovers the affair, shattering the family's illusion of happiness. The niece is 22 years old and has lived with the Johnson family since her mother passed away several years ago. Raised in a tumultuous environment, she found solace and stability in her Aunt Emily's loving home. This close-knit family dynamic has led her to see David as a father figure, deepening her connection to the family. However, as she navigates her early adulthood, the niece develops an emotional dependency on David, who has been a supportive presence in her life. This relationship, initially grounded in trust and care, gradually turns into a secret affair, fueled by a combination of vulnerability and misguided affection. As the affair unfolds, the niece becomes increasingly entangled in the web of deceit that threatens to destroy her aunt's marriage and the family's harmony. The darker aspects of their relationship lead to a series of choices that ultimately culminate in tragedy, highlighting the devastating consequences of betrayal and secrecy. On the surface, the Johnson family appears to be the epitome of a happy, close-knit household. David and Emily frequently host gatherings with friends and relatives, showcasing their strong relationship and the joy of family life. They share laughs over dinner, attend their children's events together, and engage in community activities, all while appearing to be the perfect couple. However, beneath this facade lies a growing tension that only David and his niece are aware of. Late-night phone calls and secretive glances become more frequent, and small inconsistencies in David's behavior start to raise red flags. Emily, busy with her responsibilities as a homemaker and mother, senses an unease but attributes it to the stresses of daily life. As David juggles his role as a loving husband and a secret lover, the weight of his deception begins to take a toll on him. The cheerful family gatherings become a mask for the darkness brewing beneath the surface, creating an unsettling contrast that foreshadows the impending tragedy. This tension builds gradually, leaving viewers on edge as they sense the inevitable collapse of the family's seemingly perfect life. The Johnson family lived in Los Angeles, California, in a suburban neighborhood that radiated warmth and community spirit. Their charming home, complete with a white picket fence and a lush garden, painted a picture of an ideal family life. The neighborhood was filled with families like theirs, where children played together in the streets and neighbors often gathered for weekend barbecues. The allure of Los Angeles's vibrant lifestyle seemed to enhance the Johnsons' facade of happiness. David and Emily often participated in local events, volunteering at schools and attending community festivals, reinforcing their image as the quintessential family. Inside their home, framed photos of family vacations, birthdays, and holidays adorn the walls, showcasing countless happy memories. However, it was within these seemingly safe and loving surroundings that the affair began to unfold. The niece, feeling a sense of belonging after the loss of her mother, often found herself alone with David while Emily was busy with household chores or taking care of the children. These moments, initially innocent, gradually morphed into secretive conversations and stolen glances, setting the stage for the dark secret that would soon threaten to unravel their lives. The affair between David and his wife's niece began in the aftermath of the niece's mother's death. Seeking stability after her loss, she moved in with the Johnson family, where David became a source of emotional support. As he comforted her through her grief, their bond deepened, and what started as innocent moments quickly evolved into a romantic connection. Both David and the niece were acutely aware of the betrayal they were committing. They engaged in secret conversations, using coded language to avoid arousing Emily's suspicions. Late-night texts and stolen moments became their norm, allowing them to maintain the facade of a happy family while hiding their true feelings. David's guilt began to surface as he became more secretive, making excuses for late nights at work and sudden trips. The niece felt a mix of excitement and dread, knowing their actions were wrong but unable to resist the allure of their secret. This atmosphere of deceit created a ticking time bomb, setting the stage for a devastating confrontation that would forever change their lives. As the affair progressed, David's behavior became noticeably erratic. He frequently checked his phone for messages, often glancing nervously toward his wife to ensure she wasn't watching. Late nights at work became more common, and he would often return home with excuses that lacked credibility. Friends and family started to notice his mood swings. One moment he was jovial, and the next, he seemed lost in thought, grappling with guilt over his betrayal. The niece also felt the weight of their secret. Initially exhilarated by the thrill of the affair, she soon found herself consumed by anxiety. She became increasingly withdrawn, avoiding family gatherings and spending more time in her room. The joy she once felt in being part of the Johnson family started to wane, replaced by a growing fear of being discovered. Their once easy interactions were now filled with tension, as each glance and whispered conversation carried the risk of exposure. As the couple tried to navigate their dual lives, the strain began to show in subtle ways. David's kindness toward Emily grew sporadic. He would snap at her over minor issues, leaving her confused and hurt. Meanwhile, the niece felt torn between her loyalty to Emily and her feelings for David. The growing tension between them, marked by secretive exchanges and awkward encounters, foreshadowed an impending crisis that neither of them could escape. Friends and family began to notice subtle changes in the Johnson household. David's suspicious absences became harder to ignore. What once were routine late nights at work now seemed excessive, leading friends to question whether he was truly devoted to his job. Emily, increasingly concerned, began to voice her worries to close friends, who suggested that perhaps David was going through a midlife crisis or facing workplace stress. At family gatherings, the interactions between David and his niece became noticeably strained. Their once easy camaraderie turned into awkward exchanges, where nervous laughter replaced genuine conversation. Observant relatives began to exchange glances, sensing an unspoken tension that lingered in the air. During these gatherings, the niece would often steal glances at David, searching for reassurance, while he avoided prolonged eye contact, clearly aware of the facade he was trying to maintain. As the weeks passed, the signs of trouble escalated. Friends reported seeing David and the niece together more frequently, often in settings that seemed out of place for a typical family dynamic. Casual outings and innocent errands started to raise eyebrows, and whispers of concern circulated among those who knew them. This increasing scrutiny only added to the weight of the secret they carried, amplifying the sense of impending disaster as the once tight-knit family began to unravel under the strain of deceit. As the weeks went by, Emily's growing suspicions began to take root. The subtle changes in David's behavior, his increasing irritability and unexplained absences, didn't go unnoticed by her. She found herself replaying conversations in her mind, searching for clues that could explain the distance that had developed between them. Emily's intuition, usually reliable, was now clouded by a sense of confusion and betrayal, leading her to question the stability of their marriage. Emily started to observe the way David interacted with their niece more closely. What had once seemed like a natural rapport now felt charged with an underlying tension. The affectionate glances and shared laughter that once characterized their relationship felt forced and hollow. During family dinners, she noticed her niece's nervousness around David, which contrasted sharply with her previous comfort. These observations ignited a sense of dread within Emily, making her increasingly anxious about the health of her family. As she tried to confront her feelings, Emily's sleepless nights were filled with worry. She began to scrutinize every detail, from David's phone habits to the timing of his late nights. Her instincts told her that something was fundamentally wrong, but she struggled to piece together the truth. The warmth that once defined their marriage was now overshadowed by suspicion, creating an emotional chasm between them that felt impossible to bridge. This growing tension heightened the stakes, setting the stage for an inevitable confrontation that would shatter their lives. In March 2023, the tranquility of the Johnson household was shattered when the lifeless body of David's wife's niece was discovered under chilling circumstances. She was found in the family garage, lying motionless among scattered boxes and old furniture. The scene appeared to be an unfortunate accident at first glance, with various items having fallen around her, as if she had been moving things when tragedy struck. However, investigators soon noted several inconsistencies that raised suspicions. The niece's body bore signs of struggle, and the positioning of her limbs seemed unnatural, hinting at foul play. David, visibly shaken, tried to maintain his composure as he explained to the police that she must have slipped while helping him organize the garage. His demeanor, though, betrayed him. He was too calm, too collected, and his explanations lacked the frantic urgency one would expect from someone who had just lost a loved one. As the investigation unfolded, it became evident that David had staged the scene to mislead authorities. He attempted to create the illusion of an accident, but the forensic evidence told a different story. Small traces of blood, along with inconsistencies in his account, began to paint a grim picture of what had really happened. The chilling discovery marked a turning point, transforming the investigation from a tragic accident to a harrowing murder case that would unravel the carefully constructed facade of the Johnson family. The crime scene in the Johnson family garage was unsettling, casting an eerie atmosphere over the entire neighborhood. The garage, usually a cluttered yet familiar space filled with boxes, gardening tools, and bicycles, now felt like a crypt of secrets. Dim light filtered in through a single window, casting long shadows that danced eerily across the floor. The faint smell of motor oil mixed with dust hung in the air, adding to the chilling sensation that something sinister had transpired. The niece's body lay among the scattered belongings, partially obscured by a stack of cardboard boxes. Her hair was disheveled, and her expression was frozen in a haunting stillness, evoking a sense of horror. A small pool of blood had gathered beneath her head, stark against the gray concrete, signaling the violence that had erupted in this seemingly mundane space. Investigators carefully examined the surroundings, noting the disarray. The toppled boxes and misplaced items suggested a struggle, painting a picture that contradicted David's initial claims of an accident. The shock felt by the investigators was palpable as they processed the scene. Faces hardened with grim realization, they exchanged glances that spoke volumes of their disbelief. This was not just a tragic accident. The indicators of foul play were mounting. Outside, the community began to sense the gravity of the situation, whispers of confusion and horror rippling through the neighborhood. Friends and neighbors who had known the Johnson family for years were left reeling, struggling to comprehend how a home that once epitomized warmth and love could hide such dark secrets. The initial shock soon morphed into a collective unease, as the once safe and inviting neighborhood became the backdrop for a chilling crime that would haunt its residents for years to come. The police investigation into the tragic death of the niece quickly gained momentum, led by seasoned detectives from the Los Angeles Police Department. Detective Sarah Martinez, a veteran investigator known for her keen intuition and meticulous attention to detail, took charge of the case. With over a decade of experience in homicide investigations, Martinez was determined to uncover the truth behind the disturbing scene. She was joined by her partner, Detective James Holloway, who brought a wealth of forensic knowledge and a no-nonsense approach to crime solving. As the detectives began their investigation, they quickly identified inconsistencies in David's account of the events leading up to the discovery of the body. While he maintained that the niece had fallen while helping him organize the garage, their preliminary findings suggested otherwise. Detective Martinez meticulously scrutinized the crime scene, taking note of the positioning of the body and the surrounding clutter, which hinted at a struggle rather than a mere accident. Detectives conducted interviews with family members, neighbors, and anyone who had seen the niece in the days leading up to her death. They uncovered a web of deceit as they pieced together the timeline of events, revealing the escalating tension within the Johnson family. Witnesses described David's increasingly erratic behavior and hinted at a rift between him and Emily, further raising suspicions about his role in the tragedy. As the investigation deepened, the detectives relied on forensic evidence, such as blood analysis and fingerprints, to connect the dots and unravel the chilling truth that lay beneath the surface. The forensic evidence in the case quickly began to dismantle David's carefully crafted narrative. The first red flag came from the unusual marks found on the niece's body. While David claimed she had fallen and hit her head during a routine task in the garage, the coroner's report told a different story. Bruises on her wrists and neck were indicative of a struggle, suggesting that someone had physically restrained her before her death. These injuries were inconsistent with David's account of an accidental fall and immediately raised the detective's suspicions. Blood analysis also played a crucial role in piecing together the truth. Small traces of blood, found on David's clothes, contradicted his claim that he had no physical contact with the niece during the incident. Forensic specialists determined that the blood spatter patterns in the garage did not match the position of the body as David had described. Instead, they pointed to an altercation that took place at a different part of the garage, followed by an attempt to reposition the body in a staged accident scene. This manipulation of the crime scene became one of the clearest signs that foul play was involved. Further inconsistencies in David's story began to emerge when investigators analyzed his phone records and text messages. Deleted messages between David and the niece revealed the affair, a motive for the crime that David had desperately tried to conceal. These digital traces, combined with the physical evidence, painted a grim picture. David had lured the niece into the garage that day, and during a heated argument, things had turned violent. The forensic evidence was the final puzzle piece that exposed the lies, unraveling the truth about the brutal murder hidden behind the facade of an accident. As the investigation progressed, police interviews with family members and friends gradually unveiled the tangled web of deceit surrounding David's actions. Detective Sarah Martinez and her partner, James Holloway, conducted interviews with close relatives, starting with Emily. She described her growing unease regarding David's behavior, expressing her concerns about his late nights and increasingly secretive demeanor. Emily recalled how David's interactions with their niece had shifted from warm and familial to awkward and distant, further fueling her suspicions. Next, detectives turned their attention to friends of the Johnson family. Neighbors recounted seeing David and the niece together more often, which raised eyebrows in the community. One neighbor mentioned a late-night conversation he overheard between David and the niece, filled with hushed tones and laughter that seemed inappropriate given the circumstances. These observations hinted at a relationship that transcended the bounds of a typical family dynamic, leading detectives to question the nature of their connection. The turning point in the interviews came when they spoke to the niece's close friends. They revealed details about her emotional struggles following her mother's death and how David had been a source of comfort for her during that tumultuous time. As the pieces fell into place, the detectives discovered that the niece had confided in her friends about the complicated feelings she had developed for David, creating a motive for jealousy and anger. This information, coupled with Emily's insights, painted a clearer picture of a toxic environment filled with betrayal and emotional turmoil. The interviews not only exposed the motive behind David's actions, but also illuminated the tragic consequences of deceit that would forever alter the lives of those involved. The trial of David Johnson became a sensational event, drawing attention from the community and media alike. The courtroom buzzed with tension as the prosecution laid out its case against him, presenting a narrative of betrayal and violence that unfolded like a dark drama. The emotionally charged atmosphere intensified as family members took the stand to share their experiences, each testimony weaving together the tragic threads of the case. Emily, visibly shaken, recounted the gradual unraveling of her marriage. With tears in her eyes, she described her growing suspicions about David's late nights and erratic behavior. She spoke of the love she had for her niece and the confusion she felt upon realizing the betrayal within her own home. Her heart-wrenching testimony revealed the deep emotional scars left by David's actions, leaving the courtroom in stunned silence. Next, the lead detective, Sarah Martinez, took the stand. With unwavering poise, she recounted the details of the investigation, presenting forensic evidence that painted a chilling picture of the crime scene. The courtroom listened intently as she explained how David had staged the garage to look like an accident while hiding the truth of the violent struggle. Her testimony illuminated the dark reality behind David's facade, underscoring the gravity of his betrayal. Key witnesses also came forward, including the niece's friends, who shared intimate details about her emotional state leading up to her death. They described how she had confided in them about her complicated feelings for David and her sense of guilt over the affair. Their words echoed in the courtroom, revealing a young woman caught in a web of conflicting emotions, ultimately leading to her tragic demise. As the trial progressed, the emotional weight of the testimonies began to mount, creating a palpable tension that filled the air. Each revelation peeled back layers of deception, exposing the raw pain and heartache experienced by those affected by the crime. It became clear that this was not just a murder trial. It was a deeply personal exploration of love, betrayal, and the devastating consequences of choices made in the shadows. The emotional intensity of the proceedings left an indelible mark on everyone present, setting the stage for a verdict that would forever alter the lives of all involved. The trial of David Johnson became a battleground of contrasting narratives, with the defense and prosecution locked in a fierce struggle over the truth. The defense team sought to portray David as a victim of circumstances, arguing that the chaotic nature of his personal life and the emotional turmoil surrounding his niece's struggles had clouded his judgment. They emphasized his previous good standing as a family man, painting him as a husband who was merely caught in a web of misunderstandings and miscommunications. The defense's approach hinged on evoking sympathy, attempting to convince the jury that David was a man who had made a tragic mistake rather than a cold-blooded murderer. In stark contrast, the prosecution painted a damning picture of David as a calculated killer who had betrayed the trust of his family in the most horrifying way. They presented evidence of the affair, emphasizing the emotional manipulation and deceit that had festered in the Johnson household. Shocking moments erupted during the prosecution's case, particularly when they revealed the deleted messages between David and the niece, which detailed not only the affair but also discussions about the need to keep their relationship a secret. This revelation sent gasps through the courtroom, as it became clear that David had not only been unfaithful but had also woven an intricate lie that ultimately led to a tragic outcome. One of the most emotional moments came when the prosecution played a recorded phone call made by David to a friend shortly after the niece's death. In it, he expressed his fears of being caught, but also showed little genuine remorse for what had happened. This chilling display of self-preservation over sorrow shocked the jury and highlighted the depth of his betrayal. As the trial progressed, the stark contrast between the two narratives became increasingly evident, culminating in a courtroom drama that left everyone grappling with the heartbreaking reality of a family shattered by secrets, lies, and an unfathomable act of violence. The courtroom was electric with tension as the jury filed back in to deliver its verdict. Silence enveloped the room, with every eye fixed on the foreman. When the words "we, the jury, find the defendant, David Johnson, guilty of murder," echoed through the courtroom, a wave of emotion swept over the attendees. Gasps filled the air, and the weight of the moment bore heavily on the Johnson family. Emily, who had been sitting in the front row, immediately broke down in tears, her hands covering her face as the reality of the verdict crashed down on her. The mixed emotions of relief and anguish swirled within her, as the verdict confirmed her worst fears about the man she once loved. Other family members expressed shock and disbelief, grappling with the knowledge that David had not only betrayed them but had taken the life of someone they all cherished. As the judge called for order, David's face remained stoic, betraying little of the emotional turmoil swirling around him. It was a moment that encapsulated the profound tragedy of the case. A family torn apart by betrayal and violence, left to pick up the pieces in the aftermath of a verdict that would forever alter their lives. The courtroom, once a place of justice, now stood as a stark reminder of the devastating consequences of hidden affairs and dark secrets, leaving an indelible mark on all who witnessed it. In 2024, David Johnson was sentenced to 25 years to life in prison for the murder of his niece. As the judge delivered the sentence, the courtroom was filled with a somber atmosphere, echoing the gravity of the crime and the pain it had caused. David, now facing the consequences of his actions, showed little reaction, maintaining a blank expression as he was led away. The impact of the sentence reverberated throughout the remaining family members, particularly Emily, who felt a complex mix of relief and heartache. The lengthy prison term provided some measure of justice, but the emotional scars from the betrayal and loss of her niece remained deeply etched in her heart. She knew that while David would be locked away, the memories of the love and laughter shared with her niece would forever haunt her family gatherings. The community of Los Angeles, once a close-knit environment, found itself grappling with the shocking nature of the crime and the revelation of the dark secrets hidden within the Johnson household. Neighbors who had once viewed the family as a model of suburban life now struggled to reconcile the image of a loving family with the tragedy that had unfolded. The case became a cautionary tale, serving as a reminder of the devastating consequences that can arise from deceit and betrayal. As time passed, the community worked to heal, but the memory of the horrific events would linger, leaving a lasting impact on everyone who had been touched by the tragedy. The murder profoundly tore the Johnson family apart, leaving deep emotional wounds that would take years to heal. Emily, now a widow, found herself grappling with the overwhelming grief of losing her niece while also dealing with the betrayal of her husband. The once familiar dynamics of family gatherings shifted dramatically. The absence of the niece created a void that was impossible to fill. Emily often recalled the joyful moments they shared, haunted by memories of laughter and love that now felt like a distant echo. The impact of the crime rippled through the extended family as well. Relatives who had once gathered for celebrations were now left in disbelief, struggling to come to terms with the horror that had unfolded. Familial relationships became strained as each member processed their grief differently, with some turning to anger and blame directed at David. Family gatherings turned somber and awkward, filled with an undercurrent of tension and unspoken pain. The rift between relatives widened, as they found it difficult to navigate their relationships in the aftermath of such a tragedy. Within the community, the crime left a lasting scar. Neighbors, once familiar faces, became distant as the shock of the events unfolded. Many were left questioning their perceptions of the Johnson family, struggling to reconcile the image of a loving household with the reality of betrayal and violence. Trust within the community was shaken, as residents became more guarded, wary of the hidden secrets that could lie beneath the surface of any family. Local organizations and support groups emerged in response to the tragedy, aimed at helping those affected by violence and promoting awareness about the importance of open communication within families. Yet, the memory of the crime lingered, reminding everyone that beneath the facade of normalcy, darkness can exist, leaving an indelible mark on both family and community. The community was left in shock as the details of the murder unfolded, casting a long shadow over the neighborhood. The case became a haunting memory for all who knew the family, many of whom struggled to comprehend how a seemingly devoted husband could betray his wife in such a horrific manner. As news spread, whispers of betrayal echoed through gatherings and events, leading to a collective sense of disbelief and sorrow. Residents who had once admired the family for their closeness and unity found themselves questioning their perceptions. Friends and neighbors who had shared joyful moments with the couple grappled with the betrayal and violence that shattered their image of a happy home. The case became a topic of discussion, prompting many to ponder the complexities of trust and relationships and the potential for darkness hidden beneath the surface. In the aftermath, community leaders organized support groups and counseling services to help those affected by the crime cope with their emotions and regain a sense of safety. The incident served as a painful reminder of the fragility of trust and the devastating consequences of infidelity. While the community sought to heal, the memory of the murder lingered, forever altering the landscape of their lives and the relationships among those who had once known the family. This tragic case shows how betrayal can lead to unimaginable consequences, forever altering the lives of those involved. It serves as a stark reminder of the fragility of trust and the dark paths it can lead us down. If you found this story compelling, please like this video and subscribe for more true crime content. We'd love to hear your thoughts on this case. Do you believe justice was truly served? How would you react if you found yourself in a similar situation? Share your opinions in the comments below.